Belling the cat. The mice once called a meeting to decide on a plan to free themselves of their enemy, the cat. At last, they wished to find some way of knowing when she was coming, so they might have some time to run away. Indeed, something has to be done, for they lived in such constant fear of her claws that they hardly dared stir from their dens by day or night. Many plans were discussed, but none of them thought was good enough. At last, a very young mouse got up and said, "I have a plan that seems very simple, but I know it will be successful. All we have to do is to hang a bell about the cat's neck. When we hear the bell ringing, we will know immediately that our enemy is coming." All the mice were such surprised that they had not thought of such a plan before. But in the midst of rejoicing over their good fortune, an old mouse arose and said, "I will say that the plan of the young mouse is very good, but let me ask you one question. Who will bell the cat?" It is one thing to say that something should be done, but quite a different matter to do.
4 Oxen and the Lion. Once upon a time, in the forest, there lived 4 oxen. They were very good friends and always went together to graze in the fields. However, every time they went, a hungry lion tried to attack them. But whenever he came near, they turned their tails to one another, so that which way the lion approached them, he was met by the horns of one of them. One day, the 4 oxen fought among themselves. They started going to the forest separately. Then the lion attacked them one by one and soon made an end to all 4. United we stand, divided we fall.
The Ant and the Grasshopper. In a field, one summer's day, a grasshopper was hopping about, chirping and singing to its heart's content. An ant passed by. The ant was dragging a huge seed in order to store it for the winter. "Why not come and chat with me?" said the grasshopper, "instead of toiling and moiling in that way. I'm gathering food for the winter, when it will be cold and there will be no food. It would be a good idea if you did the same," the ant answered. "Why bother about winter?" said the grasshopper. "We got plenty of food at present." But the ant went on its way and continued its toil. When the winter came, the grasshopper had no food and found itself dying of hunger. While it saw the ants distributing every day corn and grain from the stores they had collected in summer, the grasshopper knew it's best to prepare for the days of need. The Bear and the Bees.
Once upon a time,
a bear was roaming in woods in search of berries. he came across a log where a swarm of bees had nested to make their honey. The bear began to nose around the log to find out if bees were at home. Just then, a single little bee flew out of the log to protect the swarm. Knowing that the bear would eat all the honey, the little bee stung him sharply on the nose and flew back into the log. The bear lost his temper in an instant. He swatted at the log with his big claws, determined to destroy the nest of bees inside. But this only brought out the whole swarm of bees. And the swarm of bees began to sting the bear from head to heel. The bear saved himself by running to and diving into the nearest pond. Alone we are weak, but together we are strong. It is wiser to bear a single injury in silence than to provoke 1,000 by flying into a rage.
The Birds and the Shivering Monkey. Once upon a time, there was a huge tree. The tree made a very comfortable home for the family of birds who built their nests on its branches. One day, when the sky was overcast with dark clouds, it rained very heavily. One monkey who was playing nearby the tree got drenched and ran for shelter under the tree. The monkey was shivering with cold. When all the birds saw the monkey in this pitiable condition, one of the birds said, "Oh monkey, you would not have to shiver like this if you had built a home like us. You would not have to suffer like this. If we had built our nest with small beaks, then why can't you? By God's grace, you have 2 hands and 2 legs. Why don't you make a nice shelter for yourself?" On hearing this, the monkey got annoyed and swore to teach a lesson to all the birds. As soon as the rain stopped, the monkey climbed up the tree and destroyed the nests of all the birds. The poor birds flew here and there in misery. Moral: never give advice to fools.
The Crow and the Pitcher. Once upon a time, in a spell of dry weather, when the birds could find little to drink, a thirsty crow found a pitcher with a little water in it. But the pitcher was high and had a narrow neck, and no matter how he tried, the crow could not reach the water. The poor thing felt as if he must die of thirst. Then an idea came to him. Picking up some small pebbles, he dropped them into the pitcher one by one. With each pebble, the water rose a little higher, until at last it was near enough so he could drink. In a pinch, a good use of our wits may help us out. The Donkey and the Horse. The donkey asked the eating horse for some food. "Yes," said the horse. "If any remains out of what I'm eating now, I will give it to you for the sake of my own superior dignity. And if you will come down when I reach my own stall in the evening, I will give you a little sack full of barley." At this, the donkey replied, "No, thank you, my friend. I cannot imagine you giving me a major amount of food as a sack of barley when you cannot even spare a little food now." Without charity in the present, don't expect charity in the future.
Once upon a time, one hot summer's day, a fox was strolling through the fields. He became hungry and started to search for food. He saw a beautiful bunch of ripe grapes hanging by the branches of a tree. The grapes seemed ready to burst with juice, and the fox's mouth watered as he gazed longingly at them. The grapes hung higher than the fox, and the fox had to jump for it. He jumped and stretched. First time he missed it by a long way. So he walked off a short distance and took a running leap at it, but fell short once more. The fox tried again and again, but in vain. At last, he had to give up. And walked away with his nose in the air, saying, "I'm sure they are very sore." It is easy to despise what you cannot get.
The Fox and the Crow. A fox was walking through the forest when he saw a crow sitting on a tree's branch with a fine piece of cheese in her beak. The fox wanted the cheese and decided he would be clever enough to outwit the bird. "What a noble and gracious bird I see in the tree," proclaimed the fox. "What exquisite beauty! What fair plumage! If a voice is as lovely as a beauty, she would no doubt be the jewel of all the birds." The crow was so flattered by all this talk that she opened her beak and gave a cry to show that the fox her voice. "Cow, cow," she cried as the cheese dropped to the ground for the fox to grab. Beware of flattery. The Lion and the Mouse. A lion was sleeping in a forest. A mouse kept running over his face. The lion was disturbed and arose from his sleep. He caught the mouse and was about to kill him. Then the mouse prayed to the lion to leave him off and assured that it would help him when it needed. The lion laughed and let him go. One day, the lion was caught in a net spread by a hunter. It roared and tried to escape, but in vain. The mouse heard the lion's roaring and came there. started cutting the net with its teeth. The lion escaped and thanked the mouse. A kindness is never wasted. The Fox and the Monkey.
Once upon a time,
all the animals of the forest gathered to elect the new king. The monkey was asked to dance. He did this so well that all the animals were so impressed by his performance. All the animals were carried entirely after the feat with enthusiasm. And then and there, all of them decided to make the monkey as their king. The fox did not vote for monkey and was much disgusted with the animals for electing so unworthy ruler. One day, he found a trap with a bit of meat in it. The fox then got an idea. Hurrying to the king monkey, he told him that he found a rich treasure, which he had not touched because it belonged to His Majesty the monkey. The greedy monkey followed the fox to the trap. As soon as he saw the meat, he grasped eagerly for it, only to find himself held fast in the trap. The fox stood off and laughed. "You pretend to be our king," he said. "You cannot even take care of yourself." Shortly after that, another election among the animals was held. This time, they elected the lion as the king. The true leader proves himself by his qualities. People who cannot control themselves should never control the people around them. The Mouse and the Bull. It was a hot day. A bull was sound asleep under a shady wall. The bull was snoring loudly. This loud noise awoke the curiosity of a small mouse passing that way. The mouse bit the bull on the nose and slipped into a hole in a wall before the bull could react. The bull charged at the wall without making any impression, time and again until he had worn himself out, at which the mouse darted out and bit the exhausted bull on the nose again. The bull could do nothing except fume with anger. "You big ones don't always win," squeaked the mouse from his hole. "Might is not always right."
Once upon a time, beside a lake, there lived a tortoise and two geese who were great friends. As the lake was drying, the geese decided to migrate to a new place. The tortoise also wanted to move with them but could not fly, and so he pleaded the geese to take with them. After trying really hard to convince them, finally the geese agreed. They held a stick with their beaks and asked the tortoise to hold the stick with his mouth and warned him not to open his mouth in order to avoid letting go of the stick. As they flew high, some onlookers thought that the tortoise was kidnapped and commented, "Oh, poor tortoise." This angered the tortoise and he immediately opened his mouth to say something back. As soon as he did, he fell to the ground and died. Think before you speak. Listen to the instructions and follow them.
The two pots. Two pots, one of brass and the other of clay, stood together on the hearthstone. One day, the brass pot proposed to the clay pot that they go out into the world together. But the clay pot said to the brass pot that it would be wiser for him to stay in the corner by the fire. "It would take so little to break me," he said. "You know how fragile I am. The least shock is sure to shatter me." "Don't let that keep you at home," urged the brass pot. "I shall take very good care of you. If we happen to meet anything hard, I will step between and save you." So the clay pot got convinced, and the two set out side by side, jolting along on three stubby legs, first to this side and then to that, and bumping into each other at every step. The clay pot could not survive that sort of companionship very long. They had not gone 10 paces before the clay pot got stuck, and at the next jolt he flew into 1,000 pieces. Equals make the best friends.
Once upon a time, there lived two cats. One day, the two cats found a piece of cheese and cut into two pieces, but one piece slightly bigger than other. Both the cats wanted the bigger piece. Soon the two cats started fighting for the bigger piece. While the cats were arguing, a hungry monkey happened to be passing by. He saw the cats fighting for the cheese. The monkey said, "Let me help you. I will make the pieces equal." Then it took a bite from the bigger piece, but this made the other piece bigger. So, the monkey took a bite from the other piece. In that manner, the monkey finished eating both cheese pieces completely and ran off quickly, and the poor cats could only watch. When we fight amongst ourselves, a third person gains.
किसी पर्वत प्रदेश में मंदविश नाम का एक वृद्ध सर्प रहा करता था। एक दिन वह विचार करने लगा कि ऐसा क्या उपाय हो सकता है जिससे बिना परिश्रम किए ही उसकी आजीविका चलती रहे। उसके मन में तब एक विचार आया। वह समीप के मेढकों से भरे तालाब के पास चला गया। वहां पहुंचकर वह बड़ी बेचैनी से इधर उधर घूमने लगा। उसे इस प्रकार घूमते देखकर तालाब के किनारे एक पत्थर पर बैठे मेढक को आश्चर्य हुआ तो उसने पूछा, मामा आज क्या बात है? शाम हो गई है किंतु तुम भोजन पानी की व्यवस्था नहीं कर रहे हो? सर्प बड़े दुखी मन से कहने लगा, बेटे क्या करूं, मुझे तो अब भोजन की अभिलाष ही नहीं रह गई है। आज बड़े सवेरे ही मैं भोजन की खोज में निकल पड़ा था। एक सरोवर के तट पर मैंने एक मेढक को देखा। मैं उसको पकड़ने की सोच ही रहा था कि उसने मुझे देख लिया। समीप ही कुछ ब्राह्मण स्वाध्याय में लीन थे। वह उनके मध्य जाकर कहीं छिप गया। उसको तो मैंने फिर देखा नहीं, किंतु उसके भ्रम में मैंने एक ब्राह्मण के पुत्र के अंगूठे को काट लिया। उससे उसकी तत्काल मृत्यु हो गई। उसके पिता को इसका बड़ा दुख हुआ और उस शोकाकुल पिता ने मुझे शाप देते हुए कहा, दुष्ट, तुमने मेरे पुत्र को बिना किसी अपराध के काटा है। अपने इस अपराध के कारण तुमको मेढकों का वाहन बनना पड़ेगा। बस तुम लोगों के वाहन बनने के उद्देश्य से ही मैं यहाँ तुम लोगों के पास आया हूँ। मेढक सर्प से यह बात सुनकर अपने परिजनों के पास गया और उनको भी उसने सर्प की वह बात सुना दी। इस प्रकार एक से दूसरे और दूसरे से तीसरे कानों में जाती हुई यह बात सब मेढकों तक पहुँच गई। उनके राजा जलपाद को भी इसका समाचार मिला। उसको यह सुनकर बड़ा आश्चर्य हुआ। सबसे पहले वही सर्प के पास जाकर उसके फन पर चढ़ गया। उसे चढ़ा हुआ देखकर अन्य सभी मेढक उसकी पीठ पर चढ़ गए। सर्प ने किसी को कुछ नहीं कहा। मंदविश ने उन्हें बांति बांति के करतब दिखाए। सर्प के कोमल त्वचा के स्पर्श को पाकर जलपाद तो बहुत ही प्रसन्न हुआ। इस प्रकार एक दिन निकल गया। दूसरे दिन जब वह उनको बैठा कर चला तो उससे चला नहीं गया। उसको देखकर जलपाद ने पूछा, क्या बात है, आज आप चल नहीं पा रहे हैं? हाँ, मैं आज भूखा हूँ, इसलिए चलने में कठिनाई हो रही है, जलपाद बोला। ऐसी क्या बात है, आप साधारण कोटि के छोटे मोटे मेढकों को खा लिया कीजिए। इस प्रकार वह सर्प नित्य प्रति बिना किसी परिश्रम के अपना भोजन पा गया। किंतु वह जलपाद यह भी नहीं समझ पाया कि अपने क्षणिक सुख के लिए वह अपने वंश का नाश करने का भागी बन रहा है। सभी मेढकों को खाने के बाद सर्प ने एक दिन जलपाद को भी खा लिया। इस तरह मेढकों का समूचा वंश ही नष्ट हो गया।